let's keep going and talk about another character from the prequel trilogy that people want to come back. Specifically, one dude wants this guy to come back, and that's Mace Windu. And Samuel L. Jackson has been pushing this pretty much ever since Revenge of the Sith, that Mace Windu is still alive and he's out there and he's kicking, and he should come back. He survived that fall.
Yes.
And, apparently he worked on a movie recently with Bryce Dallas Howard, and he took this as an opportunity to pitch her, seeing as she directs episodes of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, on the idea that maybe Mace Windu should come back for another round of Star Wars. And he spoke about this during a live episode of the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. Here is a clip.
Everybody back, Sam. What's going on? The Obi-Wan trailer just dropped the other day. Is Mace Windu, he's alive with one hand somewhere. Somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Well, that's the same way I think about dude from, Jurassic Park. He's somewhere riding around on velociraptors with one arm. He's just on the island just...
Right.
riding raptors, but...
Should I hold out hope at this point for Mace?
There's a huge history of people with one hand returning in Star Wars. I asked, the only person I've ever said that to about coming back was Bryce Dallas Howard, because I just did a movie with her, and she directs episodes of The Mandalorian and stuff. So you think you might be able to hook a brother up? I mean, you like me, right? And she's like, I love you, you're amazing. Put me back in this.
Put me back in the game, I'm ready.
Put me in, coach, I'm ready. I'll learn to, lightsaber left-handed. Come on, hook me up.
Can I just say, I'd be more interested in Sam Jackson's character from Jurassic Park coming back and us getting a TV show or a movie about that than I would be for Mace Windu to come back.
Oh my gosh.
I know plausible at this point.
Yeah, I know people want Mace to come back, but at some point, some of the characters have got to stay dead. At some point, some of the characters.
Yeah, we'll keep Padme dead. We'll keep Corday and Dorme and
so we'll just keep all of the Naboo handmaidens dead.
Yeah, all the Naboo handmaidens. Dooku can stay dead. But here's the thing: is like even more so than Maul. If anybody's got a character arc left, it's Mace Windu. I mean, Mace Windu is such a fascinating character. Like, he was the one who was right about Anakin. Like, he was right that the kid shouldn't be trusted. And he was right about the Chancellor. And he was right that he should have been killed at that point. Like, he was right. And
he got the perfect conclusion because he was right about all of those things. But nobody listened, so
nobody listened. But here's the thing, though. What is the hanging thread? Is what happens when you're Boba Fett and you can't get vengeance. You can't avenge what happened to your father because the person who killed him is dead. They haven't really dealt with that.
I see. I don't know. I got everything I needed out of Mace and Boba from those 3 episodes of Clone Wars. That satiated me. That he tried. I genuinely love the ending of that arc, and maybe it's a little bit rushed, but I really like it because you see throughout those 3 episodes of Clone Wars Boba struggling with does he want to be a killer? Does he want to be a cold-blooded killer? But then he. So he goes on this sort of adventure to try and kill Mace, and in the end, he comes face to face with Plo Koon, and Plo Koon makes him do the right thing. And there's this moment in Boba Fett's story where his life could have been turned around, but then he comes face to face with Mace, and Mace basically has nothing to say to him and doesn't give him anything, doesn't give him the slightest bit of remorse. And so Boba commits to a life of crime in that moment. And I really like that sort of like, I felt like it solidified Mace as the person that sent him on this journey. And, as we talked about a lot with Boba Fett, there's a tragic element to him based around the fact that his father died and he witnessed it at such a young age, and he never got closure from it. And Boba Fett never getting another chance to kill Mace Windu I think just adds to that lack of closure, and I think is really interesting. I have a feeling you guys might want to respond to that, but I want to bring up, we got another super chat from George. George says, I don't understand the Mace hype. He's the mean vice principal character and served his purpose in the story. I would be disappointed if he returned. I'm kind of with you. Like, Samuel L. Jackson is an incredible actor, and he makes this character interesting to watch. And I feel like there's more you can do with Mace in the prequel era. But you were just laying it out, Chris. That he was right about so many things, and I think that makes his story just kind of a tragic note to end the mean vice principal's character arc on. The fact that even though he was a difficult guy to love, he was kind of right about a lot of things, and he was right, but it still killed him. Being right is what killed him. It's kind of tragic. There's a tragic note on that. So, look, if they bring Mace back, fine, fine. As long as it's a good story, fine. But I feel like this is a good. I feel like his ending is appropriate for that character.
His ending's okay, but I just feel like there can be more to be done with his character than some of the other characters that they've brought back. And I don't know, like, I understand, like, but if you just watch the movies and all you care about is, like, what is on the screen during the movies, and you don't really think about it more deeply, like, his character is, kind of a cardboard character. But, like, when you get into lore, I feel he's, like, more fascinating than that. Like, the whole thing about him using Vapad and it being kind of skirting between the boundaries of the light side and the dark side, I think is, like, super interesting. And the fact that he's got a purple lightsaber, like, I understand he has a purple lightsaber because Samuel Jackson said, you better give me a purple lightsaber, and they gave it to him. Like, I understand that's where the origin of it, but, like, they worked it into the story to make him really unique as a Jedi. There's a lot of qualities that Mace Windu has that no other Jedi has. And so I feel like there should be more done with that character. And maybe they can use de-aging technology. I mean, and to be honest, Sam, he looks great for his age.
And he's done the de-aging stuff in Captain Marvel.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, he doesn't look too different. But so like, you could go back and maybe tell some Clone Wars stories. Like, that would be pretty cool. Who suggested that? Yanni in the chat suggested that. That would be cool. But either way, I just feel like there needs to be more from this character than we have. I feel like there's a lot of untapped stuff there. I wasn't satisfied with the amount that we had him in the Clone Wars. I want to see more of that. And Joel brings up Shatterpoint. Like, that's I don't think that's canon, but it's
a Legends now. I just read it last year. It's good.
So yeah, I want to see more. I want to see. I think Sam has a point that there needs to be more of this character. I just think we got to make it, like you said, Dominic, fit into the story in a way that makes sense. And I don't know quite how to do that fully. But again, I think back characters have been brought back for a lot less. And I don't think it's explicit or necessary that he dies. I think it's necessary that he fails. I think it's necessary that, he's taken out of the picture. But I don't know if his death per se for his character is something that's necessary for his character to mean something in that movie.
And we just got done talking about Maul, and you can watch you can watch all the movies and then tell someone that hasn't seen anything, go, oh yeah, they brought Maul back. They brought Maul back and they had a whole thing with him. And I think a lot of the reaction back in the day was like, he's just a one-dimensional character and he got cut in half. How did he survive? And why would you do this? Like, what's the deal? A lot of those same complaints could be, applied to Mace. Kind of a one-dimensional character, didn't do a whole lot on screen, and he died. He served his purpose. Why would you want to bring him back? The difference is, I think, with Maul is they, like I said earlier, they did something interesting with him. They, hey, just bringing Maul back just to have him fight Kenobi again, it's cool, but it's not very meaningful. Having him come back and create his own personal army and then take over a planet and then try to seduce Kenobi to the dark side and do all this kind of crazy stuff. That's interesting storytelling. They had a plan. I don't know if they had that planning. I don't know. Maybe George Lucas really did just go, "Oh, just bring him back because it's cool." Like maybe he did do that, but they ended up going in the direction of, "Hey, this is interesting." My one thing is like, I'm open to having Mace Windu come back. Yeah, you know, logically speaking, it's completely plausible that he landed on his feet and he's okay. He's wandering around with one arm. Maybe he's got a robot arm at this point, but it still doesn't like justify that. You can't just be like, okay, bring this character back because it's, let's do something interesting. It's, you know, and I'm just thinking about what could you do? You bring him back in the dark times. You're going to have to fight Vader. Like, what are you going to do with him? And he's already kind of fought Vader. He got killed by Anakin kind of proxy. Like, there's a lot of stuff you could do with him, but I'm not sure where it could go.
Yeah. What the reason why I don't think Mace should come back is that in the prequels, he represents the status quo. And when Palpatine wins, he literally throws the status quo out the window. And so I feel like that's, you know, it's a symbolic death as much as it is a character death. But, you know, again, stranger things have happened. It could happen. And I would think if you brought him back, you would want to do something that is unexpected. And I would think the Mace Windu, if they were to continue that story, you would want, I wouldn't think you would do a Mace goes after Vader story, because we kind of know how that ends. You kind of have to know how that ends, right? And what is there left in the Mace Anakin relationship there? Like, you know, Mace was right. Okay, good. he can rub it in Vader's nose as Vader cuts him in half. So I would think maybe you would want to do something where he, you know, becomes some kind of hermit or something, or becomes like you know, maybe he becomes a Han Solo type or something. You know, there's places you could go, I suppose. But ultimately, the thing about Star Wars is there are so many great characters in the saga, and with every new show and new movie, we just add more and more to them, and you constantly feel like, oh, this person could have their own show, this person could have their own movie, or this person could have their own whatever. And unfortunately, it's just going to be impossible to get to all of them. And while I agree that there is certainly potential for more Mace stories, preferably pre his death, in my opinion, that it's one that, you know, with every new show that comes out, I feel like there's a character on there that, you know, supersedes him on the list for me, where I'm like, oh yeah, okay, Mace would be cool, but there's this new character, and I'd kind of like to go with them. If we're gonna get a new show, I'd like to go with them as the lead instead of Mace, and with everyone it goes along like that. So
if you give me the option between, you know, Mace Windu and Pelimoto, I'm like, it's a hard. I'm not sure how
Peli is a supporting character to me. I don't know if I want
supporting character now. Who knows what she could do with her own series? Come on.
Fair point.
This is what I would do if I was writing this. Mace survives. Boba finds out. Boba goes and hunts him down, just like Maul's hunting down Kenobi with that same level of rage. But they end up in a situation where they need to work together to survive, kind of like in the episode with Dooku, Anakin, and Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars.
Where they're all tied together. Yeah.
All tied together. And they have to work together. And then ultimately, Mace ends up saving Boba's life. He sacrifices himself to save Boba's life. And that completes Mace's arc of being selfish, right, but selfish, because he finally sacrifices himself for somebody else, and that adds a better note to the ending of his character. And then for Boba, it plants the seed that then grows into the good in him that he then has in the Book of Boba Fett.
Was Mace selfish? There's a lot of words I might use to describe Mace Windu. I wouldn't have said he was particularly selfless, but I wouldn't have said he's selfish.
He's got the grand scheme of things. Like I just rewatched No Way Home, and it's like
Me too.
Doctor Strange in that movie he's not really thinking as much about the small picture of like what's going on in Peter Parker's life. He's thinking about the big picture of the whole universe and what's going on. And so it's selfish from one perspective when you're looking at interpersonal relationships, but then ultimately it's because the character is focused on the whole multiverse. And I feel like Mace is kind of that type of character too, where like, you know, he can be a bit of a jerk to people because he cares about the big picture rather than what's happening individually to people.
I think he lacks empathy, and also lacks like pulls himself out of it, and he's like a true Jedi in the way that they're supposed to be, without emotion, without personal attachment, just about serving the galaxy, and that's, you know, the bottom line. And you know, he doesn't have any emotions. That's why I kind of hated that ending with the Clone Wars ending, with him just going like, well, you're going to have to, like, I'm like, that's all we get between Mace and Boba, come on. But like, that's pure Mace Windu, just like, I don't feel anything. You have all this hate for me. I don't feel anything. I don't have any emotions. You know, your father tried to kill me and I killed him. That's you know, that he's very simple minded about it. I think an interesting thing to go with Mace Windu is like, how do you kind of deconstruct him and see? I think that's one good thing that's come of these shows, is that, you know, what we saw with Boba Fett and what we probably are going to see with Obi-Wan Kenobi is like the peeling back the layers. And the Marvel shows have done this exceptionally well, of like taking these characters that didn't get a lot of screen time and like putting them on display and putting them in the spotlight and go like, okay, what makes them tick? What's going on in their head? And, you know, I think Mace Windu would be a good character to do that to. But I'm not sure I'm comfortable with like completely undercutting his, like, because it's a huge moment in galactic history. His death, Anakin contributing to Palpatine killing him, that's a big moment. You know, I think that's something that needs to be considered in all this, is, you know, anytime you're going to bring a character back, like, what does it mean to not have that character die in that moment? Now, you're saying that character survived that moment. Well, what does that mean for the overall story? Is this worth it? And so I like the other suggestions of like maybe bringing him back. You could bring him back in Obi-Wan Kenobi, where we might have some flashbacks with Anakin and Obi-Wan. What if Mace Windu showed up?
Yeah, like the reason you can bring back Maul, to me, is that, you know, Maul has served his purpose in that scene, in killing Qui-Gon. After he's killed Qui-Gon, he's done the important thing to Obi-Wan and to the galaxy. Everything that happens after that is just sort of tying up loose ends for the movie. And so it doesn't mean anything in Obi-Wan's journey per se that he kills Maul in that moment. What's important to Obi-Wan's journey in that moment is that his mentor is lying there dead, begging him to train Anakin. And so Maul coming back doesn't take anything away from Obi-Wan in that moment, because the important thing to Obi-Wan in that moment isn't Maul. Mace coming back, I agree with what you're saying, Ben, that, you know, it's important that Anakin and Palpatine take out, as I said earlier, this symbol of the strength of the Jedi Order. Like you guys have said, you know, Mace plays kind of he does kind of play the long game. He takes kind of a macro view, and he can be rather cold with people. And as a result, I wouldn't call him selfish, but he might seem selfish from time to time, when really he's just, you know, he's thinking about things at a much larger scale than everybody else is. He's not worried about the one-to-one interaction. You know, he can be very, I'd say, straightforward is how I would describe Mace, rather than, I wouldn't call him simple. I'd say he's straightforward, Ben. But yeah. I think that's kind of that's my thinking for why while I agree that more Mace stories would be a good thing, should be pre-death.
So basically, Sam Jackson wouldn't like this show very much.
No, I think he'd be mad at us.
Hello. I'm #1 Sam Jackson fan here. So I'm the one that's gonna get invited to his party, his birthday party. Y'all not
Look, Sam,
right?
if you're watching, I know you're watching. Come give us your story pitch. You've had a long time to think about this. I want to hear his story pitch.
Yeah.